Welcome back to Leeds Lately for the tactical preview of Leeds United versus Ipswich Town at Elland Road. Now, Kieran McKenna, the manager of Ipswich Town, is something of a tactical sensation this year, taking Ipswich Town, who came second in League One last year to get promoted to the Championship, right up to second place in the Championship itself. They've been doing fantastically well this season. Leeds, of course, have already played them once, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But today we're going to talk about how Kieran McKenna likes Ipswich to play their football and how Leeds might be able to combat that. So before we get into it, make sure you hit that big red button down below. I haven't done one of these in a while, but I thought as Ipswich are a really, really big game for us at Elland Road, and they've got to go and play Ipswich, they've got to go and play themselves. They've got to go and play Leicester as well. It's going to be a big, big opportunity for a point swing if we win both our games and they lose both of theirs. So we're going to talk about this one today and give you a bit of a tactical preview of what you might see at the weekend. So straight into the tactics with the tactics board. And first thing we're going to do is talk about how they play out from the back. Now, Leeds are yellow here and Ipswich are red. I'm never going to make Leeds red for obvious reasons. But the first thing I'm going to do is just briefly say, when Leeds play out from the back, yes, you'll have more of these players a bit further up the pitch, these opposition players, but a lot of the time, Leeds will play it out to one of the two central defenders, and everybody else will be ahead of them, quite spaced out and quite high up the pitch, and it'll be an opportunity for Leeds to try and break those lines and eventually make their way forward, but not that quickly. The difference with Kieran McKenna's Ipswich when they play out from the back is they do have their defenders waiting there, but they also drop in their holding midfielder. The attacking midfielders all come in as well. They pretty much leave the striker on the halfway line. And so looking at that, playing out from the back, you'd usually think Leeds would probably push up like this because of this. Usually, playing out from the back like this, you would think if they'd dropped all of those players in there, they were actually playing really, really defensively. But they're not. It's actually an attacking move. And I saw someone describe it as artificial counter-attacking. So it's basically trying to draw the opposition onto you as much as possible, draw them up the half, because if you're pulling them in here and all your players are here, Leeds players are going to have to go and are going to have to get in those spaces there to try and stop them playing out from the back. And the idea being that when Leeds have drawn when Ipswich, have drawn all of Leeds' players up into their half, that is the moment when they can play out quickly through the lines and basically break a counter-attack without losing the ball. So it's not like they've just won the ball back and counter-attacked. They are making their own counter-attack. They're architects of their own counter-attacks, of their own attacks, but very quick breaks. Now, it seems like the similar sort of thing to a counter-attack, but what they do, like I say, draw you onto them, and then once they've drawn you onto them, they try to turn, get all the players running in behind and break quickly. Now, this is something that Leeds can combat by just being simply aware of the fact that this is a possibility, so they don't push as many players forward. They have a little bit of better of rest defence, and if you don't know what rest defence, that is when you have the ball or when you're up the pitch, what you do towards the back of your team to prepare yourself for being counter-attacked upon. So usually rest defence is when you have the ball, but in this case, Leeds need to have a good rest defence in here, which they usually do with this sort of square of players here, to stop anything coming through the middle. Maybe if it goes down the line, it's not the end of the world because Leeds are able to get back and defend that. But Leeds need to be aware of them trying to suck us onto them whilst they're playing out from the back, and then basically creating their own counterattacks from that, creating their own artificial counterattacks from those situations. So that's the first thing you need to remember. The second thing you need to remember is, and I highlighted him in the thumbnail, is Leif Davis. Now, I said that this is a 4-2-3-1, but in actual fact, it is pretty much three at the back when Ipswich have the ball. And what happens is Leif Davis almost becomes an out-and-out winger. And that means that the winger that was playing here can tuck inside, and you've actually got, let's say that the Leeds players are back a little bit further, you've actually got this player here, this player here, this player here. You actually have four in the middle and one out wide. So you, honestly, at times, they create a 3-2-5 or a 2-3-5 based on whether that fullback comes up a little bit as well. And they basically say, we're throwing everything at you. A little bit like what Leeds do towards the end of games sometimes when Daniel Farke brings all of the players on to try and just get a goal at the end, but they do that throughout the game as their sort of attacking push, is that Leif Davis almost becomes a winger, and that's why he got so many assists last season. He got 14 assists last season in League One, and he's already getting assists this season as well for Ipswich. And obviously, like I said, if he's this far out wide, it means that these players can all get on the last man and wait for his crosses to come into the box, which he's also a great crosser of the ball and has great delivery on those. So that is also an issue for Leeds, whether they are good enough to defend those not set piece situations, but those crossing situations. And also, Leif Davis is pretty good on free kicks as well. So his delivery is something that we need to watch out for with our back line. So like I say, at times when they're playing like this, they'll play a 3-2-5 when they're on the ball and when they're attacking, or even a 2-3-5 when they're really attacking. But because they are decent at going forward, it means that they sacrifice something at the back. Not decent, they're excellent at going forward with Connor Chaplin, with Leif Davis out wide, with some of the other players in those attacking moves. And obviously at the base of that, you have Sam Morsey and his midfield partner in there who kind of control those situations. So the way that Leeds can exploit this is playing on the counter-attack, and that is what we are best at. And that's why when we played Ipswich at Portman Road, we scored 4 goals, because we were able to counter-attack them so well, because they really push everybody onto you. Now, you can argue that maybe they won't do that as much against Leeds at Elland Road, but they've done that to everybody else when they've gone away this season. And even at home at Portman Road, they knew that Leeds were a very good side, but they still really went for it, and that's why we were able to score our 4 goals. So if they do push players up the pitch like this, and almost, like I say, play a 3-2-5 or a 2-3-5 when they have the ball, it really gives Leeds a chance to counter-attack, and that is where we really hit the hardest, with Jorginho, with Somerville, with Piru, all making those runs forward, and Dan James, whoever else comes on. It's our best strength, really. So that's something that we can really exploit, I do feel. The other thing is that when they press, they kind of try to force you down the middle. So let's put them back into the positions where they would be really, because if let's say that Leif Davis is up here a little bit pressing, Leeds have the ball here in the defence. You would have that player out wide and drop that player in there. So when Leeds have the ball, they want to go forward, obviously. So a ball into Ampadu, let's turn and we go into the forwards. What Ipswich like to do is actually create almost a cone or a funnel, if you will, and try to force you into playing through the middle of the pitch, because that's where they like to have Sam Morsey, who's made some of... I think he's up there with the most tackles in the division from a holding midfielder this season. And that is why they actually try to funnel you into these holding midfield positions where they can take the ball off you. And with his good passing range and his ability to turn on the ball, Sam Morsey is a real key player for them as well. In getting them the ball back and then getting them up the pitch again. And obviously, when they do that, because they've won the ball in a fairly deep position, it allows them to have that sort of artificial... Well, actually, no, this would be a counter-attack, sorry. Getting confused with my own sayings here. But it allows them then to counter-attack, because Leeds are playing out from the back and they think they can go forward, and then the switch is flipped and they win the ball back and they can go forward again. So we need to be careful about losing the ball in those situations and not fall into the traps that Kieran McKenna likes to set with his Ipswich side. So like I say, make sure that our defence is good. When we lose the ball, you've got Ampadu and Kamara or whoever else it might be ready, that they may be coming straight back at us on the counter-attack. So maybe we'll have to be a little bit more conservative in certain players that are going forward, like your fullbacks and stuff. And maybe Archie Gray will have to tuck in a little bit more than going forward in this game. But I do feel like Ipswich can be got at. They've conceded 28 goals this season, which is... really not that great considering where they are in the league. They've obviously just been outscoring teams, but I think in the top 10 they've conceded the third most goals. So yeah, if you put them in terms of goals against in the top 10, they'd be 7th, and they're obviously in 2nd place. So they're doing something right going forward, but also it means that they can be got at. And we've seen that before because, like I said, when Leeds played them at Portman Road, we ended up scoring 4 goals against them, and that's due to our ability to counter-attack, our quality on the break, and our speed on the break. And also, we did concede goals against them, so it shows that their ability to go forward as well is really, really good. So it's going to be an interesting battle. I think it's going to be a tactical battle between two very good managers. It's going to be a good game, I think, because obviously the 4-3 at Portman Road was a brilliant game. I think it's going to be a good game again. I don't think that Kieran McKenna will come to Elland Road and think, do you know what, I'll settle for a point. I feel like he's going to properly go for it. So I think we could be in for a bit of a humdinger, which is not a word I've used before on this channel, but it is now, so you can have that one. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know if you've been impressed with Ipswich this season, whether you think we're going to beat them, maybe put some score predictions in. I will be live for the game, and there'll be a match reaction as well, so plenty more on the way this week. Thanks for watching Leeds Lately though, and I'll see you in the next one.